Hi there folks, my name's NovaWing24 and welcome to an early access review of an interesting little title brought to us from Movie Games and Playway. So, first off, I want to say thank you very much to Playway, the publishers of this title, to actually, distributors of the title, to actually provide me with a review copy to bring to you today. So, what is 303 Squadron Battle of Britain? So for the history buffs out there, or those people who may not know to 303 Squadron, 303 Squadron was the first Polish fighter squadron formed in the Royal Air Force. So this was at the start of the Second World War. So Poland had been overrun by the Germans with its invasion, and many Polish troops and aviators and anyone that basically could get out of the country safely would actually flee through Europe and actually make their way and regroup in the United Kingdom along with the Polish government in exile to be able to carry on the struggle and one day eventually re-liberate their homeland. So, 303 Squadron has sort of developed a bit of a mythic status in Royal Air Force history and Polish aviation history, and also within the movie world as well. And they do pay homage to that in this title, which is pretty cool. So, 303 Squadron, as I said, 303 or Kosciuszko Polish Fighter Squadron was founded in July 1940 in England by Polish pilots who managed to make their way to England and were ready to fight for the British to eventually be able to free Poland from German tyranny. So this is their story, essentially. What this is now. The first thing to notice is we're going to go through the basic setup of the title here. Then we're going to have a look at some of the gameplays. But first off, I want to make really clear that this is an early access title. So this is very early access. It's gone from being an alpha demo into now being an early access release. Currently sitting at version 1.2.4. Now, it is not complete, and there are quite a few bugs in it, but at the same time, it's of interest to me because of the aviation aspect and because of the historical aspect to it. And I think overall it's done reasonably well, so yeah, there you go. Now, the other thing is that this is probably going to be my first sort of thing that I'm going to observe, and we're going to see more about it as when we actually play get into some gameplay here in a moment, is that this title is trying to be a lot of things at once, but in terms of a game. But if you put that to one side and think about this as an interactive story, as an interactive movie, then it's probably going to make it a bit easier to do, but with some interesting gameplay mechanics. So, alright, I won't elaborate too much on that until we actually get into the sim, into the actual game, because this is one of the genres it tries to be. That part not so well, but anyway. Alright, okay. So when you start up 303 Squadron Battle of Britain, you get this menu here. So pretty much it's for me it's designed very basic, very simple looking thing. Now this is done as in the Unity engine. So Unity engine is one of the becoming one of the leading game engines now, and I think overall fairly well done for this one as well. But it has a very simple setup here. So this is something that I can see being able to be ported to as well as PCs, but also onto consoles and mobiles fairly easily. And I'm guessing that's possibly the idea of that. So what are your options here? So you get continue the game, you start a new game, options, credits, and exit. The first thing, really huge bugbear that absolutely pisses me off is this. So the title is available in two languages. It's available in English and Polish. So that's fine. That's the flag of Poland there. No problem at all. You can select the Polish version, or it's English, not American, folks. It's English, not American. If you really must, put the American flag with the line and the Union and the Union Jack in there, okay? If you really must, but just no, just small thing. I know I know it's cosmetic, but oh dear, oh that pisses me off. Anyway, moving on. All right, so you got your language choices there. That's it, pretty much simple, done. All right, what options do we have? Now, the options are sort of laid pretty simple. Now, video options, so we're going to go through them pretty easy. Pretty much very basic stuff. It's stuff that we sort of see fairly easily. So it goes through, you know, what, aliasing, resolution, view distance, texture quality, stuff like here. Now, I do want to point out that the texture qualities are very varied in this title at the moment. There is, as I said, it's an early access title, and some of the texture quality really shows it. There are certain things which are done incredibly well, and certain things that aren't. Just, yeah. But otherwise, you got the basic things. You got your screen resolution, window mode, vertical sync, blah 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 blah, all the usual fun stuff that we get to see. So cool, done, awesome. Pretty much you can whack it on Epic, and as I said, I'm running on Epic at the moment, and it's doesn't really tax the system too much. I'm pretty sure you can get away with most, even mid-range systems will be able to get away with a high to Epic setting. So that's it, pretty basic at the moment. We'll see how development goes in the future, but for now, yeah, pretty easy. Alright, next one is audio. Again, pretty basics, master volume, sound effects, music, dialogue. The music is actually very simple, but very, very nice. It's very well done. It's very thematic and very decent range of classical music, sort of classical style theme music, so yeah, quite decent for that one. I like soundtracks. What can I say? I like soundtracks. Okay, I'm going to skip over keyboard. He's going to come back to that gameplay. So gameplay, again, pretty basic. Kill cam is something that's kind of cool and interesting. So something that's sort of traditionally more from the sort of the first-person shooter genre, especially with made famous by Sniper Elite and its nut shots. But it is here in the aviation elements, and it's kind of cool, kind of well done, actually. I kind of like it. And this just simply allows you the frequency whether you turn it on and off. A couple of other basic things about sort of HUD visibility, mini-mount, quest logs, blah, 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 blah. Some of these things are not implemented fully very well at the moment, but yeah, they are coming through there. But yeah, you sort of break down with your gameplay with your flight, gameplay when you're actually walking around the airfield and actually interacting with objects through that as well. So you're getting sort of a few different, two different fundamental areas of interaction here with different settings. So good that you've got different settings for different options. Alright, key bindings. This is where I have my first major problem. Now, as I was alluding to before, this title tries to do a lot of things at the same time. It tries to do a story-driven RPG. Well, actually, no, not a story-driven RPG, just an interactive sort of story-driven first-person exploration, sort of, exploring type game. It also does a sort of story-driven narrative. It also tries to do a I have to say flight simulator, but it's not. It's very much an arcade style, even though there is an arcade and a realistic mode. It just doesn't. It doesn't do that part very well at all. The other problem I have is flight controls. So fundamentally, this game is probably not going to be for a quote unquote hardcore flight simmer. However, the fact that your flight controls equipment doesn't get recognized by this title is a little frustrating. The other thing that's even more frustrating is that it shows here that right now, for example, I have my normal flight sim equipment attached. I also have a Xbox 360 gamepad attached. Now it tells me that the default, and these are all currently default key bindings, that the key bindings, it says yes, I can use the gamepad for flight controls. No, I can't. I can't. And if I go add binding and actually sort of move any or indicate any of the buttons on my pad, I don't know if you can hear the buttons clicking from the microphone, but yeah, it just doesn't work. So yeah, I have. This is the biggest bug I've found so far, is that you are stuck with the default controls, and although it's alluding to you will eventually have gamepad or controller support, it's not there at the moment. So that's sort of good and bad. The other thing I'm going to do is I am going to change something around really quickly because it was bugging the hell out of me before. So I'm going to change that to... oh, oh. Okay, now that's another issue. There you go. Okay, so that's another issue that I've just discovered here. Apparently, you can't set up the other binding. That's even worse. Okay, so yes, the controls are definitely a major issue. The fact that you can't even change the controls. Oh, maybe we can do it this way. Okay, hang on. Let's okay, before I say that, let's try this one. Okay, let's try this. Okay, add binding. Nope. Okay. A invert. Okay, so that's how you have to put it across. Okay. Alright. Not a huge fan of that. But okay, we will roll with it. So yes, okay, so sorry, correction, you can do that, you can put, so basically you can put keyboard and mouse interactions, but that's it. And that is a little concerning, just saying. So, wonder why that's. I'm not even gonna question that anymore. I'm not even gonna question those things anymore. So, yeah, really, it's disturbing and annoying, and that's actually just going to really bug me here for a second. Here. That's really going to annoy me, but anyway. That's really annoying and really weird. Anyway, so as I said, this is the fundamental issue that I have with it at the moment, is the fact that the controls leave a lot to be desired. It looks like there's a lot of stuff here that potentially that you will have down the track. So, you know, we get a boost, sort of engine restarts, you know, fire your weapons, reload. There looks like there's a lot of stuff that will be there in the future, but for now it is very much this is the biggest part that it actually lets you down on. So that's, again, as I said, early access title. If you do end up purchasing this and going through it, make sure you do give the feedback through the through all the options as well. So there you go. Now the other thing is, it does have an advanced mode for the flight controls, and again, this is probably going to be more for when we eventually get proper support for controllers, where you can actually sort of do you can actually do different ranges and actually stuff like that. So I think let's go back. Let's just make sure I didn't do anything too silly there. Okay, key bindings. Where are we? Okay. Nothing looks too messed up there. Excellent. Okay, that's fine. Alright, okay, so that's the controls, and that's my biggest bugbear with it at the moment, is the fact that the controls are very much the defaults, and it's very not friendly when it comes to controllers. So there you go. Okay, so now that we've had a look at that, we've had a look at the main menu, let's have a look at some actual gameplay. Now, the gameplay is structured around days in the life of the squadron. So what we're going to do first is that we are going to have a look at a sort of, actually, I'm going to start a new game, and we're going to have a look at sort of like the initial first sort of mission, and then we're going to go back and we're going to have a look at a later one as well.
When we first arrived to Britain, we felt lost. So many months without a real home. So many months of disregard for our country and for us. The days of rigorous training in Demlin Academy seemed like a sweet dream. A curious thing, the soldier's life. At time of peace, you sometimes secretly long for war. It may seem a thing you are made for, a test, an adventure even. Yet when it starts, all you want is to defeat your foes as fast as you could, to end the tragedy and save lives. We lost our country. We also weren't able to help saving France. Britain was the last stop for Nazi Germany. And for us, it was time to fight. I learned I will be joining number 303 Squadron, and was expecting to see some familiar faces there. We all were hoping to continue the great traditions of our former units, and with more modern equipment, we knew this time we have a real chance of triumph. When I arrived to RAF Norfolk Air Station, I felt ready for any challenge.
So as I was saying, this is very much a historical sort of narrative, and with the fact that it is built around the whole premise of the tale is built around actual actions and actual engagements of 303 Squadron. So it's interesting, and it puts some very interesting historical lights in a few things. All right, so this is sort of where you'll spend a lot of your time in this sim, is that you will spend it actually sort of at RAF Northolt. Now, we're going to start here, so we're going to start here on our bike. Oh, yeah, so something that I like about this is the fact that, they have modeled it as a living field, so um, it's not 100%, but it is modeled off how the field appeared at the time. Now, in terms of interactions, you've got fairly basic sort of stuff here. You sort of like, E to interact with objects, and sort of the usual W, A, S, and D keys and stuff like that. So this is just kind of just a nice little thwick of the actual sort of bike going around as well. Doesn't really have anything, again though, doesn't really have any sort of, got some interesting, sometimes it interacts with the terrain, sometimes it doesn't. Like for example, if we do this, we get sort of like a hiccup as we go across the sort of the edge of the road there, but with sort of no real difference depending on what terrain they were actually going across. Now, one of the things that I appreciate as well is the hurricanes. So, the Hawker Hurricane is for me, very much the unsung hero of the Battle of Britain, with the fact that, okay, beep. So very much the unsung hero of the Battle of Britain, because so there was more of them produced than the Spitfire. It wasn't as beautiful as the Spitfire. The Spitfire is beautiful, but it was the heavy hitter. So this was the aircraft that actually had the most kills during the Battle of Britain. Actually, I know with the Spitfire, I'm pretty sure it had more kills than that even at the end of the war, even with all the different versions of the Spitfire. Because it just had a lot more versatile in its roles. Now, there is some accuracies here that I really appreciate. So, actually, let's start with the model. The model of the Hurricane is reasonable. Couple of issues with it, mainly with the textures. The colors not right, but the patterns the patterns right. It's the standard RAF pattern. It's the model 3D model is reasonable. I think the engine block though is not quite right. Just something about it just doesn't gel right for me. But as I said before, Unity engine game looks really, really, like, it just looks beautiful. It really does. Now, the other thing I like the fact is now these codes here on the side. So RAF squadrons had recognition codes. So the first two codes, so RF in this case, is the squadron code, and then the last letter at the back is the sort of individual aircraft identifier. Then you got the registration down the back there. So this is accurate. So RF was 303 squadron code, both when they were first being established and for many, many years going into their service. In fact, all the way through to almost the end of the Second World War, their squadron code was RF. At the end of the Second World War through to their disbandment in 1946, they switched to a different set of codes, but the RF was their Second World War set of codes. So that is accurate, that is correct, that's awesome. The use of the 303's squadron's sort of logo, sort of squadron crest there, that is semi-accurate. So it was put there. In that location on most of the squadron's Hurricanes, but it usually was stenciled on, especially in the early days. It wasn't actually sort of painted on like that. It was more literally drawn on with chalk. So yeah, but still a nice touch with that. Registration codes, they are the right syntax, so they should be right. But also the other thing that I like about the fact is that they're different. So it's not like we're seeing, the same 3D models that asset just sort of dumped around and sort of ignored. The fact is we're actually looking at, and as I say that, I've got one that's cloned there. But that's sort of like, there are different ones here. So we've got RFA and we've got RFO here. Unfortunately, that one is also RFO, so that's a bit annoying. But the fact is that there are multiple liveries there as well. So early access guys, just get on that, fix that other one, because I was pointing out a good part and then it sort of fell apart on us. Anyway, so yes, but the fact that there is some of that is at least done is pretty cool to see. All right, we get back on our bicycle. And yes, this is, and from what I can gather, this is the correct layout of RAF Northolt as well. We've got our colleagues doing calisthenics over there. Now, this sort of bike is going to be your way of getting around the airfield for a lot as well. Let's go over here. Yes, so we've got RFU there. So yeah, we've got plenty of different ones here. Seriously, I'm praising something and I get the one that's not there. Anyway, these revetments, yeah, they're again accurate to the area as well as the hangars. There you go. All right, so where are we going? Yes, so we've got it to the actual be able to go into hangars as well. So you can ride your bike in here. You can see the hangars with various parts around here. Now, the thing about the hangar part as well, and if you basically hit a wall or somewhere where you can't go, your bell bings in the with the bike. So that's kind of interesting, kind of cool. Alright, so let's go to our first little mini quest, and we'll highlight this one here. Go to our mechanic. Alright, so this probably gives you a hint of something else that the Playway is known to interact with as well.
I'd love a slight change in my plane.
Okay, time for some art.
So Playway also produced the Car Mechanic Simulator series. They produced the Train Mechanic Simulator series, and all the Mechanic Type Simulator series. So you can actually tweak your aircraft and parts of your aircraft as well. So as this sort of one, we can sort of get in here. All right, so we're gonna quickly do this one as well. So this is all part of the first mission. We'll sort of get a bit of tutorial here. So we'll get that one. So pretty standard, the car mechanic simulator stuff, where you sort of left click to that one, and then you go in isolation mode, then you go in installation mode to change it. Now, we have an objective here to change the harmonization adjustment rail. So, harmonization, for those who don't know, that is the spread of where things will actually hit. So we are going to use... Okay, we're going to use a doubting spread. So that's about 370 meters, 400 yards is the best place for the combining of that. We're going to use that one.
Improvement.
Alright, I'm going to put that one in. There we go, and done. So once you've got it reassembled. Now, later down the track, you can also change parts of your engine, as well as most of the different components in the machine gun bay, and a few other things as well. Alright, let's wander outside. Okay, from that we've got our next skills, where we have to talk to a couple of our fellow pilots. Nope, over here.
Would you believe it? They called us the worst case in history. Well, let me rewrite that history they are speaking of.
Now that you've mentioned it, you still have the diary of yours, right?
Of course. Should I be forced to drop my lunch or the diary, I would rather starve than lose my scribblings.
Let us hope you will not run out of food, but only out of paper one day.
Let us hope we will run out of war sooner.
So as I was saying before, like the primary part of this game is as a story, sort of like, think of it like an interactive sort of book or movie. So it's about telling the story of 303 Squadron and the actual pilots. Like these are all actual people who served in the squadron.
Has crashed his plane because he tried to land it without extending the landing gear. What is wrong with you and your understanding of even the basics of training?
Let me guess. Kent?
Yes, and Khaled was right behind him, nodding sarcastically.
Don't worry, Joseph. Unlike us, they both were brought up in countries with modern planes growing on the trees.
Don't be unfair. The Polish aircraft at the time were also said to be modern.
Yes, a decade ago. Still, the hurricanes may be growing on the trees here, but harvest is poor. Try to remember about the undercarriage next time. It is vital for us to not belly land. Consider the war effort.
yeah, always remember the landing gear. So essentially, yeah, each time you're sort of on the ground, you sort of have the option to sort of go through, have a few, have some conversations, learn a bit more about the history of 303 Squadrons, some of the activities, and then there'll be some form of mission for you to do. So we're going to get into our Hurricane, and we're going to fly the first introduction mission, which, by the way, is a recreation of the actual first mission of the flight. We'll get into this in just a second. So let's get started. Now, when you get into start here, there's two ways of doing this. So you can either do this as an arcade or realistic. Okay, so fundamental differences between the two. Arcade is a third-person view, so you're outside of the aircraft. Realistic, in quotation marks, it just puts you in the cockpit. As I said, my biggest fundamental problem is the fact that you don't have proper flight control set up is just insanely annoying for this part. So in that case, we'll look at it in realistic, but the problem with realistic is that you literally can only fly with the keyboard. So you got your WASD, QE, and RF. Like that's it. Like that's it. There is no controllers over there. So that's just insane. Arcade, at least you have mouse flight as well, and you can sort of supplement it with a keyboard. So I'm really, at this stage, I'd be pretty much telling everybody, go with the arcade style. Hopefully, as I said, from looking at those controls, we will have the more controls coming in later on. But for now, yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm possibly going to regret this.
Keep up! Open the throttles gate if you have to. Paskevich already did all the exercise. You are the last one in the row.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at this.
During exercise. Could you prove you can fly at all?
As I said, it's trying to fly this with keyboard and mouse is just, sorry, with just keyboard, not even mouse, is so frustrating. Everything's backwards.
You are not a disappointment. The rest of the flying should be a breeze.
Oh, so frustrating. Just give me a flight stick or even like an Xbox controller for this. Oh.
Good.
Okay.
Can you hit anything? At least something stationary. Got your guns harmonized? Good. We fighters need to have a good perception, so sense your target's distance and predict the trajectory to know when the lights are green for shooting. Even with little imagination, those balloons look like German Zeppelins.
Okay. So right click allows you to bring in your cannon, so bring in your vision so you can sort of see it in there a bit more. Whew. Now the harmonization should be around about yards. You pretty much shoot it pretty easy to shoot. Alright, now we try and round. Alright. Now the other thing to note that is interesting about this is that they do model, well, I don't model it accurately, but they do model a form of engine sort of management. So you do have you got the water and oil temperatures over there. So your engines can fail, and that's partially to do with the
Bandit, 12
oh, okay,
o'clock.
so interesting. So cool story here. This actually happened. So the 303 Squadron was out on a training flight. So it was they were not supposed to engage. There was going to be they didn't believe there was going to be any enemy activity going on. All they were there to do was simply to engage, simply to do some practice flying. And what happened is that they actually believed that they found a Dornier. It actually turned out later on to be a 110. And oh dear God, this is horrible. How do people fly with keyboard and mouse? How do people do it? Oh dear God.
Good shooting.
Alright. Oh, this is awful. I can't.
It was a BS-110, but does it matter? It's a training flight. Your lack of discipline is
So,
unacceptable.
your character actually shoots it down, but
your accuracy and piloting
if you,
skills
obviously
are
like me, you can't do
impressive.
it, then you end up like the
For me,
the
your
AI takes it
squadron
for you.
should be called
Oh.
operational.
Oh dear God, I hate these controls. I hate them so much. Please, please play away. Make the controls better. Please. Oh dear Lord. Anyway. Okay, so it gives you the option at the end of it, basically, yeah, you get to restart the mission or back to the airfield. That's pretty much it. Oh, those controls are horrible. Okay, I'm gonna do this again just because I need to, just for my own sanity.
Keep up. Open the throttles gate if you have to. Paskevich already did all the exercise. You are the last one in the row. A few of you crashed their planes during exercise. Could you prove you can fly at all?
Alright, so let's try this again. So just this, how people fly with this, how you do a realistic version with just flying with mouse is, I don't understand how you can do it. You can't call this realistic flight physics flying with a mouse. You just can't.
You are not a disappointment. The rest of the flying should be a breeze.
Just how can you call this? How? I don't understand. Why? Oh, this is driving me insane.
Good. But can you hit anything? At least something stationary.
Okay.
Got your guns harmonized? Good. We fighters need to have a good perception, so sense your target's distance and predict the trajectory to know when the lights are green for shooting.
Basically, he talks about the predictive HUD.
Imagination, those balloons look like German zeppelins.
To be fair, actually, the harmonization actually, I can actually tell that does make a difference, and the physics side of things does work a little bit fairly well, actually, in this for that, so I'll give them credit where credit's due.
Bandit, 12 o'clock.
Okay,
Tally ho!
let's see if I can not make a pear shape with this one this time.
I prove you I can shoot well.
So basically, yeah, as I was saying before, they do actually sort of, in the initial after-action report for 303 Squadron, they identified as a Dornier DF-17, but it was later determined that it was actually a BF-110. It was actually recovered, funnily enough. Okay, yep, here we go. And we actually get the kill cam this time. So this is the kill cam that we talk about. So he actually sort of, pops in, get to see the blue stuff.
But does it matter? It's a training flight. Your lack
That's
of
cool.
discipline is unacceptable.
Nice. Done. So as I said,
But your accuracy
that's
and
pretty cool
piloting
and interesting.
skills
And kind of cool.
are
As I said,
impressive.
it's kind of cool. As I said, and this is where this title is interesting, because it does a lot of different stuff, but, it still takes actual sort of events.
In the future.
Right, okay. Now I'm happy to go back to the airfield now to show us all the stuff. Alright, done. So as I said, it really is interesting with the fact that it is a historical text. They take a lot of events from the actual 303 Squadrons history and actually sort of recreate them. Now, as I was saying before, like this is a title is very much you don't think of this as a do not think of this as a flight sim. Oh, good lord, do not think of this as a flight sim. It's not a choose your own adventure story either or an RPG. It's something in the middle. It's something about where it's actually about teaching, sort of showing you, allowing you to relive some history, but actually relatively historically accurate, which is probably very, very important as well. One of the things that you'll collect as you go on, you'll collect these pilot cards. Now these are sort of information about both pilots of the squadron throughout the squadron's history, but also key figures in the Royal Air Force at the time, including the squadron commander and the head of the fighter command. So yeah, it is sort of interesting stuff, and you sort of go through, you can get some information about them. Sort of, you know, it's like a bit of a snapshot of who the person was, and you know, their date of birth, their death, and just some history about them, and some, yeah, it's really like interesting about going through that stuff, and there's a lot of stuff in there to unlock. Not all of it's in the game yet, but a lot of it, yeah, is on its way. So there you go. All right, let's go around and let's talk to some other people. We got here. So some of the modeling is interesting. Like as I was saying before, like some of the texturing of like the ground and stuff is really a rough. As I said, the texturing of the hurricanes are a bit hit and miss. Texturing of the people is interesting as well sometimes.
We couldn't have seen the
to say.
face of our friend, Mr. Kellett. Donald, it's Major Kellett. We're at war, and the English are in charge here. You want to face a massacre, or have hot tea poured into your trousers? I'd just like them to wage war against adults, not us. I know. Just don't create more reasons for them to be mad about us, okay? You and Pasha broke loose and violated an order. But personally, I'm glad you did.
And some squadron ready for him, and some of the like interiors as well done as well. Sort of like at the where you can sort of enjoy some food, the mess there. Interesting things here, pirates, props and stuff around. So yeah, it's like really interesting. Like there's a lot of work's gone into this. It really has, and there's a lot more to do here as well. Oh, here we go.
Major Kellett was trying hard, but he could not have hidden his respect. It was, however, a bit buried underground, I'd say.
He's going to be buried himself one day if we are not around to help him.
And just an interesting sort of take on how sort of
I overheard him talking with Captain Kent.
How sort of people sort of interact with each other in the ranks and whatever. So yeah, it's very interesting stories. As I said, there's a lot of interesting stories going on with this.
And proud, Sergeant Zumbach. Make sure you know the all rules of flying by heart.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes the language sort of there is a bit lost in translation between sort of the Polish and English. I think sometimes the English translation does struggle a little bit. But yeah, overall, that's pretty much it. Now, once you're sort of done with your objectives for the day, by the way, these bikes just keep reappearing at various points around the sort of the airfield as you go on. Now, you will find areas that are currently blocked off. For example, I should hit a wall right about there. It is. Okay. So yeah. So eventually, sort of, you can't go visiting all of the airfield at the moment, but that is coming. Oh, it does actually have proper dynamic shadows on the for when you're on the bike. That's cool. Awesome. Okay, there we are. And of course, when you're sort of done with your objectives for the day, you sort of go back to your bunk, and you sort of go in for that one. So we'll go to the bunk here, and then we'll have a look at some of the other mechanics of the engine of the Hurricane in a little bit. Just after we wake up. If I can get it to trigger. Sometimes the trigger points are like weird, like are not close. Anyway, alright, okay, let's go check it out. So here we are next day. Let's have a look.
Bicycles. Used to train flying information, but more useful to save the soles of my shoes.
Some of the comments that you sort of make to yourself is also pretty cool and interesting as well.
It's going to be 1 year tomorrow.
Sir? Oh, yes. Right.
It all happened so fast. September, Demblin. Luftwaffe attacks, evading the Germans while evacuating the cadets through Romania, sailing to France and now England. I am so glad we can have a meaningful fight, finally.
Not all of us. Some of my friends. Somehow the command will not let them fight. Your namesake, Wanowski, he's a talented aviator. Yet he waits for his turn. He has not even been admitted as a member of any squadron because he's... they call it unruly.
Sergeant, let me assure you I am against punishments like that. People who make mistakes need to be proven wrong, not punished. I have been punished myself, you know.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your kind words. If I may speak freely, I would say that you have a great future as a leader before you.
Don't count on it, Janek.
So yep, so go through, well, that's something there, and essentially that's just going to be our, that's sort of like interaction for the day. Head over to the Hurricanes, we'll have a look at the, have a look at some of the specs. So it's fairly simple in its premise, fairly much on rails in terms of story, because it is retelling a historical events. So from what I understand is that the plan, the roadmap of the development of this is to show 303 Squadron through until sort of the end of 1940, sort of end of 1940. We may find it go. I could potentially see them going on into 1941 because 1940 sort of covered off the Battle of Britain. But 1941, they actually started doing the 303 Squadron started doing offensive operations and actually doing ground attack and sort of harassment missions through over the over sort of France and the Low Countries, the Rhubarb mission. So it'd be interesting to see if it develops into that. But primarily, it is about the story of it here during the Battle of Britain.
How about some personal touches on my Hurricane?
You want a personal touch? No problem.
So we'll have one more quick look at this before we do our last flight, and we'll do it in the arcade version, I think, this time. So we'll have a look here. So as I said, you can actually after you sort of do that initial tutorial one, you can actually go through and get a lot more out. So we'll actually go through and we'll gut the system out here. So we'll take away the struts. Alright, cool. So once we've got everything out, we can then start reinstalling things. So we'll start with the... So this allows you to go through, you can... eventually you can unlock other ones. They haven't sort of revealed how you unlock them. Eventually I believe it's most likely going to be based around sort of just mission progression. But in the meantime, you can sort of select between a couple of different options. So I'm going to go with the... So you need to get different stats. So I'm going to go with... So once you selected it, you can then install. Alright, allows us to put the front barrels on. Alright, next one is the rounds. So, standard rounds or armor piercing. Let's go with armor piercing.
Maybe this way?
Put the belts, so you can different belt feeds.
Improvement. Gently. Now that one.
height spread, this one? Alright, so 250 yards.
Improvement.
Alright. Done that one, and let's have a look at the engine. So the engine is, it's kind of cool actually being able to sort of take apart the engine of a Hurricane. I think it's just a pretty cool way of doing it. Again, this is where you see very much the influences from things like Car Mechanics Simulator here, with the fact that, you know, we've got the ability to sort of take all the parts off.
Gently.
I like his little comments that he makes as he's actually doing it as well. We'll lift the engine out.
Alright. Now that one.
I think that is just about all we can take off at the moment. Yes, that's all we can take off at the moment. So we'll start putting it all back together.
You'll be happy. How about this? This will fix
Standard
it.
available. Yeah, only got a standard engine at the moment. So yeah, it's and again, a lot of that stuff you'll sort of unlock as you go on. There we go. And
With my eyes closed.
get to there. And finally. That's good to have on the prop. There we go. Done. Awesome. Okay, so now we'll go back out and we'll do our second mission to give you guys and have a look at what the arcade style looks like. That was a bit weird. Never seen them do that before. Anyway, right. Okay, onward. Alright, so we'll go with the arcade style this time. Alright. Easy, medium, hard doesn't really seem to change much about how it works. I think it's just more about the. I think the only thing I really noticed that it changes was the damage that the AI would do to you. That's pretty much about it.
My Polish friends, you have a chance to shine. Prove me yesterday was not an accident.
Only if you prove us you are not a snob.
Tally-ho! That's our chance, again.
You know what to do. Just don't get stupid.
Right. Oh, what a fierce Hun! I can't lose him. Can anyone? Great! That was close. Oh, I think you have proven you know your craft. Let's proceed, shall we?
That was surprisingly quick and easy. There you go. So yeah, the flight aspects of it are fairly hit and miss. It's definitely not a flight simulator. Like flight air is not a flight simulator. But yeah, I definitely hope that they put something other than keyboard and mouse controls in there soon. Oh, please make sure they got something more than that soon. Alright, so thoughts at the moment. As I said, this is an early access review, so I want to make that very, very clear to everyone that this is an early access review. It is not a finished title. It is very much a work in progress. I'm in two minds about a couple of things about this title. So this title is three Squadron Battlebrand tries to be a lot of things at once. So in some ways it's trying to be a story, it's trying to be a history lesson, it's trying to be a flight simulator, it's trying to be an arcade game, it's trying to be an RPG. It's got some people would say it's trying to be that, and I think especially the flight sim stuff, it is trying to be that. But fundamentally, though, what it is that it is telling a story. It is a choose your own adventure novel / movie that's actually telling historical events. That's actually retelling things that actually happened. And I think that's really important. And I think it's presented in a way that's pretty good and reasonable. What would I like to see better? I definitely would like to see better controller support for people who do have flight controls, and at the very least Xbox control support. Also, they need to fix the texture bump mapping just there, texture mapping I've just noticed there. That's reusing a texture from that side. That's not going to fly, kids. Just FYI. Anyway, but I think I'm really happy with the direction they're taking with it. The direction they're taking with it is fairly simple, but I think maybe it's just the controls they need to work on for the flight simulation side of things. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this, and I hope you guys have been enlightened about this and see what you're thinking about this one. Now, there are several more missions that are available at the moment in this stage of early access, but there is more to come. There's not sort of much more of a roadmap. As I said, the roadmap at the moment is supposed to cover it during the battle period of Battle of Britain, which takes us through till about October 1940. Whether we see it go beyond that, I kind of hope that they do go through to 1941 with the rhubarb missions. I don't know if they will, but because it's still Hurricane's just a different, just a slightly more heavily armed version of the Hurricanes. That'd be cool. So there you go. Alright, well, this has been my early access and first impressions video of 303 Squadron Battle of Britain. This is currently available on Steam Early Access, so I'll pop a link in the description down below. I do want to say thank you very much to the to Movie Games and to Playway for providing me with the review copy of this one for you guys. And as I said, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search Novawing24. Alright folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.